Okay, good morning. This is Ron. Sunday morning, we'll see where we are. See if we have any questions on, of course, on yesterday. Uh, we talked about the topic of this year so far. This election has been a hotbed, and a little surprised at what happened. And we took a good look at it. It has given us, and is giving us an opportunity to meditate and see things from a spiritual perspective. And that's what we have done yesterday. We talked about how we felt about things. We talked about uh, our fears. We talked about what anger looks like, and the root of the anger rather is what Pastor explained to us, and I had not seen it from that perspective, but it made perfectly good sense to me. So we'll see today if we have any further questions or insight into what we started yesterday. Uh, Speaking of the election, okay, it's open, doors open, and
Ron, this is Charles. Do y'all talked about the
hold on, Charles. Hold on one second. Can I ask everybody, please make sure the phones are muted, please? Everybody make sure your phones are muted, please. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, Charles. Go ahead.
did anyone of y'all talk about what happened to the ballot that they had burned? Because I know they didn't get them people to re-vote again because some of them ballots like they got burned up too bad to recognize.
We did not address that, Charles. There's a lot of things probably happened that we didn't go into detail about. Uh, but what we have seen, or what we do see in all this, is we look at things sometimes and we see it as being separate from us. But what we looking at it from a spiritual perspective, any and everything that happened, the Creator allowed it to happen. So the question then becomes to me, and I think to the group, what is it that we're supposed to see in all this? What wisdom do we glean from this, and how does it, affect our meditations? So, no, we didn't go into that detail, but we talked about it from that perspective that I just raised. But anybody else want to address
I have
Paul?
a question, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Ron, this is Rainey. I have a question
Hey,
because this
Rainier.
is something I've struggled with. You mentioned just now anything that happened, the Creator allowed to happen, but we've talked about how we're the Creator.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to be clear. This is something we allowed to happen, not this external being that said, okay, all right.
Yes, you're exactly right. And that's an interesting point that I hope before the morning is done, we could go into in a little more detail. Okay, thank you. So, Radia brings up an interesting point, but first let's look at, does anyone want to address Charles's questions about the ballots that were destroyed?
I do.
Okay.
The ballots had not what is it? The barcodes on them, and they could trace them through the barcodes, and they were able to contact the people whose ballots were burned. In Washington, I think it was that the ballots were severely burned, but there were only 3 or 4 in Oregon. So it was not that, to make that much difference anyway, when you look at the total votes that were cast. But those who had barcodes, they were able to cast another ballot.
Okay. Thank you. Charles, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you for your question. Uh, being Elohim, being the creator, uh, when we say the creator orchestrated something or allowed something to happen, put that in perspective, please, for us, Pastor, or anyone who cares to have some insight into it.
When we talk about the creator allows things to happen, what we are talking about is the energy force of the universe that brought us into existence. We are not the gods of the universe. We don't control the universe. We were spiritual beings who were placed in bodies in this earth. We are gods in the earth. And when we talk about as above, so is below, we are also talking about the idea of bringing into existence the rhythm of the universe into the earth, so that as above, as above, it can be the same below. But it's not talking about the the controller or the ruler of the universe. When we talk about the universe, I mean God allowing things, we're talking about the energy of the universe that He is influencing through through those who are in rhythm with the universe. So we are not the gods of this world. I'm gods of the universe. Does that help you, Rainier?
I guess in this case, which God chose this then?
It wasn't us. For real. The universe allowed it to happen. The one who brought us into existence.
Am I missing it if I say this is allowed to happen because there are people in the earth that have been prepared to take care of it or to observe it and have the right attitude towards it and the right energy?
Say that again, Ron.
I guess what I'm asking is that we did not bring this on, but in an indirect way, we may still be responsible for it. And because of our desires to bring about justice and righteousness into the earth, we may not have been, the God of the universe, as you are saying, but in an indirect way, we are still partially responsible. Would you agree with that? Or no? Pastor, are you muted?
It may take more words than I want to use to explain it. First of all, let me say to you guys, I have a migraine this morning. I'm nauseated. So if I have to move, please understand, okay?
Okay.
But if I have to leave, one of the things that we need to be cognizant of is that when we were existing in we're living rather in Cabelon in Africa, we were cognizant of who we were in terms of being the gods of this earth. And we understood that there were powers greater than us. And those powers that were greater than us are the powers that brought this life that we are into existence. And with the understanding that our guidance and our direction was given to us by the universe based upon our desires to be one with the Creator. What I mean by that is this. When we were placed in these bodies in this realm of the earth, there were two consciousness available: earth consciousness, which we have lived by up until this point, and spirit, and the consciousness of spirituality. After we populated the earth, then there were choices to be made. And those choices that were made in terms of the consciousness, we had remained in the realm of spiritual consciousness. And at the same time, we were in the range of spiritual consciousness. When we populated the earth, both of those consciousness were available. Tree of light, the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We had choices between those. And when we look at how things panned out, to fast forward to the time that Europeans were brought into the earth, Europeans' consciousness was more brutal than anyone's on the earth. And they developed a mindset of a warring nature. And that was allowed to be because in order for us to be gods in this earth, we had to do the same thing that the one who created us did. The one who created us brought us into existence in his image and likeness, meaning that there is spiritual image and likeness, spiritual consciousness as well. And we, without having a choice to remain within the framework of that consciousness, we would not be gods. We would be controlled. So even when we were there in the Kushite kingdom, we had a choice to remain the consciousness of life, which is okay, Babylon, or we could embrace the consciousness of this earth. And we chose not to do that. When Europeans were brought into existence, they chose the opposite, and they became warlike. This was not a misnomer. This was done for a purpose. And if we could, for one time in our lifetime, forget about the color of somebody's skin and deal with the mindset, that's the consciousness, the mindset, then we could see this more clearly. We were not brought into this earth. We were brought into this rather so that we could become gods. We could become the God in this earth realm, and that consciousness. If we were to attain that consciousness, we had to override the consciousness of brutality, of barbaricness, those kind of being barbaric, those kinds of things. And in order to do that, it had to be present. And with this mindset of Europeans, it was present in a huge way. And it overcame us in terms of the way that the Kushite kingdom was overran, more specifically the area of Hakupata, which has been called Kemet or Egypt, was overran. Now, since that happened, it was up to us to regain a higher consciousness, for lack of a better term. When we talk about a higher consciousness, we are talking about attaining the consciousness that is available to us. And that consciousness that is available to us is the consciousness of the Kushite kingdom. And the diminishing of that consciousness within us, simply meaning awareness within us, was allowed by the universe. And what has happened is we have digressed, or we have fallen into the abyss of darkness, meaning an abyss where we began to embrace the consciousness of Europeans, or this earth consciousness. And we begun to live according to it by force in some cases and by choice in other cases. So if we were to fast forward to now, we would begin to see that the consciousness of the European, the consciousness of good and evil, has been the primary ruling consciousness in the earth for thousands of years. Now not tens of thousands, but thousands of years. Now it is incumbent upon us to do what we were supposed to do earlier in our existence, and that is to bring spiritual awareness into this earth so the earth's consciousness could be one with the universe, meaning that the rhythm of the earth would be in rhythm with that of the universe. And it is incumbent upon the African to do that. We have not done that. We are in the process of bringing that into existence. Like yesterday, when Roy made a statement, and I don't know where my mind went after he made that statement, but Roy, you made a statement in regards to that, saying that white people were not smart enough to concoct what happened. You said that God allowed it to happen. You're absolutely right. The Creator did allow it to happen. However, I think Roy was right as well when he said that they were conniving, because they are. And I wanted I want to speak to that for a moment, if I may. There is no difference between the allowing of something and the concoction of devious activities. The Creator allowed this consciousness in the earth because we didn't do anything about it. And as far as this election is concerned and other things that led up to it, that devious nature of the European mindset is an intelligence or a means of thought that is different than ours. So they do have the ability to process in order to bring into existence what happened with this election. But it is also allowed by the Creator. Now, we are gods. So what we are doing right now, what we did in the beginning with our disappointments, with our anger, what we did, we bought into the consciousness of the European. We began to respond in a way that Europeans would respond. So when we started, when we rather took a step back and looked in the mirror of our soul, we saw that this was not the way that the Creator intended for us to respond. And what did we do? We regrouped, and we began to look at this thing spiritually. And we began to understand anew that spirituality is before religion, meaning that spirituality is before anything that's chaotic. We are the source of order. Our anger, our disappointment, our frustration was disorder. Our embracing the reality that the Creator allowed this to happen, yes, and understanding the deviousness of Europeans, yes, it put us back on track. But if we think that the European mindset is not capable of coming up with these demonic, devious thoughts and actions, then we're going to lose sight of the journey that we're on. No matter what happens in this earth, the universe is going to allow it to happen until the gods in this earth are in rhythm with the universe. And when we are in rhythm with the universe, we are able to overcome the devious nature that we are seeing functioning now. I sent you guys an article that I read where Mitch McConnell is organizing against Donald Trump. And what I put as a head into that, something to the effect of look at Mitch, is already beginning. And so what's happening is, someone yesterday said that they are going to turn against each other. Well, we see that in progress already. Mitch McConnell is the most devious mind that I have ever encountered. And Donald Trump is the most, oh God, childish mind that I have ever seen in the position of power that he currently occupies. When you take that and couple it with a Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is very smart, and Stephen Miller is smart in a evil way, and he is the catalyst that is necessary to bring order to this earth. Donald Trump is simply the face of it, but those behind him are the catalysts. And now you have Tucker Carlson attacking Mitch McConnell. So I say all of this to say that if we were to stop doing what we are doing now, I know I can't, but if we were to do that, everything would regress to where it was, and it would not. I do not doubt for a moment that humanity would be wiped from the face of this earth, having to start over again like it has done so many times before. However, because there is someone in the gap, because there is a bridge that between earth consciousness and spiritual awareness, because of that bridge, all of these things are allowed to come to the surface, because there are humans in the earth who recognize that they are not just human, they're gods, and they are able to mitigate all of this. And the mitigation of it is not by fighting it, it's not by writing newspaper articles, it's by recognizing the devious mindset of the people who are engaged in the enslavement of the earth, and understanding that regardless of how the depth of deviant, y'all know what I'm trying to say. Regardless of that depth, we have the spiritual essence to overcome it. And in overcoming it, it is not banishing anyone from the earth or banishing anyone from the ranks of humanity. It is transposing energy, because all thoughts, whether they are the thought of Mitch McConnell or the thought of James Richard or anyone else, all the thoughts are energy. And the thoughts of energy that are being used by those people who have ruled the earth in a very brutal manner for so many years, this energy must be transposed. We are the ones to change this energy. When we talk about what is it? Transforming the heart, or transforming the mindset. That transformation is talking about our metamorphosis. If you look at the mindset of the European versus the mindset of the African, in order for the European to have a mindset of a Kabbalah, that mindset that he currently has must undergo a metamorphosis. No different than if the mindset of the European is a worm, then that worm spins itself into a cocoon. And when it comes out of that cocoon, it's a butterfly. So if you take that butterfly and compare it to a worm, they look nothing, they do not look alike. They don't even look like they are related to each other. And those are the two mindsets that we are dealing with currently. So it is up to us to be that cocoon that transforms that worm, that mindset, into a butterfly. Does that make sense so far? Questions or comments?
Pastor, good morning. Phil here. Good morning, everybody else as well. Okay, this brings up something I've struggled with for almost my entire faith life. The whole thing about Creator determines what happens, everything, versus Creator provides us with time, intelligence, and ability to learn so that we may be efficacious of our own destiny outcomes. For example, the person who believes in God and claims, God determines everything, but cannot accept the fact that their child is gay or trans, or that their spouse
I
voted for
missed that.
Trump.
Hey, Bill, I missed that last part. You come in like mechanical voice or electronic voice.
It's probably the curse of Bluetooth again. I think you understand my question. If you could go ahead and address it. Free will versus spiritual determination, I guess, to put it simply. Going back to you.
If you're talking about free will versus spiritual determination, all of us have the African in particular has the spiritual determination is more prevalent in the African than anybody else on the earth. That is the reason everyone knows and everyone believes who has any sense of truth that the African is the most spiritual being in the face of the earth, which means that the African, the children of Akabalon are the manifestation of divine spirituality in the earth. And I'm not talking about skin color. I'm talking about mindsets. And the European mindset is devoid of that the spirituality that the African manifests in the earth. And because it is devoid of that spirituality, then it is incumbent upon the African mindset, the children of Akabalon to bring to that mindset of the European a mindset of spirituality. And when that mindset of spirituality is there, then there is a change in the way the European thinks. And let me make that a little bit clearer if you give me a moment. The idea of making it clearer to the European is what the white people, especially in this country, calls the browning of America. This is not the browning of America. This is the browning of the world. And the browning of the world is not skin color. The browning of the world is changing the mindset from one of divination to one of divinity, changing the mindset from one of evilness to one of divine life itself, changing the mindset from being brutal beyond measure to a mindset of being a loving kindness, of embracing the essence that the Creator intends for humanity to be expressive of. Does that make sense to you, Bill? Or anyone else for that matter?
On a macro sense, yes, but on a micro sense, I still struggle with unoppressed people. The obvious metaphor comes to mind, but we'll just say any population that is oppressed for centuries even. All of a sudden, they rise up in rebellion. They finally, who knows what inspired it, a strong leader, education over time, just absorbing concepts of fairness and equality. But all of a sudden, they rise up, they overthrow their oppressor, they are now free. Are we to assume that the Creator made them wait centuries of misery till the time was right? These larger questions are what I'm talking about, Pastor. I mean, no disrespect. Going back to mute.
Oh, I don't take it as disrespect at all. I think it's simply a question that you're raising. the idea of the African overthrowing or oppressed people overthrowing the oppressor does not say that those who have been oppressed are going to become oppressors. And that is seen very clearly in the Haitian Revolution. During the Haitian Revolution, I'm going to use Toussaint Louverture for an example. However, Toussaint Louverture later on in the rebellion, and I guess in 1794 is when he became a prominent figure in that rebellion. The rebellion started in 1791 with the signature from an African priest from Nigeria. But that's for the sake of understanding, let's look at what happened in Haiti. When the Haitians, well, first of all, the Haitians are the only enslaved people who have ever had a successful rebellion against its enslavers on earth. And when they overthrew the oppressor, the Haitians did not become oppressors. When Toussaint Louverture got involved, his first involvement was on the part of, he was with the Spanish fighting the French, and then with the French, and bringing Haiti to a place of deliverance, with the French being actually working with him so he could get them in order, then they were going to kill him. But anyway, he did not lead a rebellion for the purpose of enslaving the people who had enslaved the Haitians. Toussaint Louverture was a free man, by the way, but the people who were freed from slavery did not oppress the people who oppressed them. So what I'm saying is this. The reason that the European mindset thinks that oppressed people will do the same thing to them that they have done is because they know without a shadow of a doubt what they are doing is wrong. They know what they are doing is wrong. If they did not know it, they would not be afraid of being oppressed. They know that what they know what they would do if they were in the place of the oppressed. So when we talk about it from macro mindset, we are talking about the African essence changing the mindset of the European for the express purpose of humanity being on the same page and a place of harmony. When we talk about the micro mindset, what we're looking at are the people who fought in the Civil War, who owned no slaves, but they fought for white supremacists. The micro mindset of the individual is predicated upon its environment and its influences. The macro mindset of humanity is based upon those who are able to infuse the energy on a micro level that dominates the earth. The current energy that functions on a micro level right now is that the mindset of the European. We are in the process of repurposing that energy of that mindset on the macro level so that it can function on a micro level. Right now, when it functions on a micro level, we see people like Martin Luther King being assassinated. When it functions on a macro level, we see people being enslaved like we are currently. When we do the spirituality, we started on a micro level with understanding spirituality, and the Creator guided us to a place where we were shown that we are capable of we are capable of introducing this on a macro level to humanity, and that's where we are now. So we are far beyond the micro level of understanding spirituality. We are now in a space. We occupy a space of a macro infusion so that it can be embraced on a macro level. Does that make sense so far, guys? Questions to comment? Am I making sense?
Yes, it's Bill again. You are Reverend. Here's where I'm having trouble being settled in my spirit, as you've taught me to think of it over this. After you mentioned Haiti, I think it was yesterday, I went and did some looking things up. So as recently as 2022, Haiti paid what I can only think of as tribute to France in the amount of $560 million. That was only 2 years ago. I don't know if it's still going on, but apparently they made a bargain with the devil, so to speak. Shall we coin the phrase, the cost of freedom? So in my mind, I guess it's the word tribute, because it still implies to me that, yes, in a sense, they gained their freedom, but it came with a cost of so many resources as to make them unable to fulfill the promise of freedom to their people. That's the best way I can put it. Going back to me, the world is just
Okay.
that kind of place, I guess.
Let me address that.
Can I?
Go ahead, Audrey.
I'm a little speechless for Bill when you say it's a tribute, because if you know history, the history of all of that stuff, when Haiti got its independence, between trade embargoes and sanctioning and all of that on the world stage, that was led by France as well as the United States, they were not made to pay a tribute, but they were made to repay France for all of the slaves, land, blah, 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 that France lost, so-called lost, after Haiti got its independence. And then Haiti used to be the breadbasket of Europe. Lots of big churches in Europe who have big wooden structures in their church, all that wood came from Haiti. So they not only stripped the whole country of its resources, they impounded them from trading. They used to grow enough rice to feed themselves and all of Europe. So all of that got taken away. So they don't pay a tribute to France. They pay what's been mandated by the world monetary system at the behest of France and the United States. So, we're not an innocent in any of that. But the other thing I wanted to say was, in terms of going from oppressed to an overcomer, and I'm not necessarily talking about in a physical way of overcoming people, or you becoming the oppressor. I'm talking about in the sense of going from being oppressed to becoming an overcomer in terms of spiritual things. Because in the micro sense, everyone has their own path, their own journey that they need to take. And that journey is all about getting to know yourself. Not about, it's not about assimilating with whoever the oppressor is. But a lot of people get sort of trapped in that journey of trying to be like the oppressor. And that's macro level stuff. But on the micro level, the journey is getting to know yourself, coming to know who you are, what your relationship is with the Creator, and really finding out who you are. In terms of people who are oppressed, I mean, it's hard to make that leap when you've been stripped of culture, you've been stripped of your spirituality, you've been stripped of your sense of yourself. It takes a long time to get back to some place where you can figure out that you don't have to be in this position of being oppressed. Mentally, I mean.
Guys, can you please mute your phones, please? Everyone check and make sure your phones are muted. Sorry, Audrey.
To get to that, you have to be willing to take that internal journey to get back to knowledge of self, to understand who you are. And when you get to that place, you have a major shift of mindset that tells you that you don't have to be oppressed by anybody, and you don't have to be anybody's oppressor. So anyway, that's my point. Thank you.
Good morning,
That
everyone.
was beautiful. I agree with all of it. And perhaps that's why I'm here, guys, as long as I'm allowed, is coming from an indoctrinal background of being the oppressor, being the entitled, being the all this and all that. Several years ago, this began with me. It is just as difficult to shed those facts in huge quotes and italics as it would be to shed the shame of centuries of oppression. We come at this from two different sides. How wonderful if we could all meet in the middle eventually. And as for me, somebody has to be a voice to the Europeans. I don't know if I'm that chosen person, but I have a lot to learn. Thank you for sharing. Back to mute.
Before George speaks, may I say something, please? Bill, quite frequently you say, as long as I'm allowed to be here. There isn't a time when you're not allowed to be here. That's totally up to you. We are not here to ask people not to return simply because we see things differently, or we understand we see a truth that has not been shown to humanity. So don't feel as though we're going to say, you know what, we don't want you here anymore. We don't do that. That's not who we are. Okay.
Okay, I won't say that again, but I do want you to know I'm grateful and I'm
Thank you.
respectful. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, George.
Yeah. On behalf of what Bill just said, I too, or we too, are grateful. I mean, we're living in a time and a season where we're truly blessed to be awakened in that sense, to appreciate, as Audrey said, to know thyself. Pastor, you mentioned earlier in reference to we are gods. What I wanted to do was basically just share those two scriptures in the holy books, in the Bible, and then I'll refer also, to the Shabbat Stone. But in the Bible, in Psalms 82:6, it talks about, the scripture which says, I have said ye are gods, and you are children of the Most High. I want to relate that only to one scripture, and then the other is in John chapter 10:34. I wanted to put the scripture out there for anyone who would like to read that for the purpose of them coming into the knowledge of who they are. And so as gods, you refer back to a Kebelon, which I think part of our journey is to be able to appreciate the African theory on the origin and continued development of the cosmic universe. So as we appreciate where we are, as we appreciate being continually enlightened, spiritually enlightened, I think that we have to go back to the beginning. And I think, again, Pastor, and what you're teaching and what we are having the conversation about in terms of all of us being one yet many, there's the saying of the two cosmic laws in the Kush and Kemetic teachings that I am the creator having a human experience. I am Elohim, having this human experience as we live in these vessels that we live in. But I think even what's more prevalent is to be able to realize that I am the creator having a human experience, right? But we are to treat the creator's creations as the creators that we are. And so I think that, again, I wanted to just mention that because there was a question that I did have, and I didn't want to get off the subject, but I wanted to really, ask Pastor that in yesterday, such a awesome, spiritual encounter for me, when you had mentioned about Kamala created the perfect storm. And again, I don't want to get off the subject that, maybe we were on, but I think that was something that was really profound in what you said. And I just wanted to know, what did you mean by that? If this is the right time to address it. And if not, we can address it later. I'm done.
Before I address that, George, if I may, I want to ask Rainier about the clarity of what we've discussed, because I do believe that she was the one who raised the question that led us to where we are.
I'll say I'm getting there, Pastor. Part of it for me, the lack of understanding is when I see the post or hear people say, "Well, this was God's choice," but we talk about, and we've been talking about our part in it. And I know when folks say that, they're not thinking of themselves as co-creators. It's in the hands of this being that's going to do what it needs to. And that means there is no, in that kind of space, there is, why am I bothering? I guess I go back to, it was just in the hands of this being that's outside of what I'm able to affect.
I see what you're saying.
Well, also with that, Pastor, what I agree with her. People see it when they say this is God's doing, or God. They see it as a punishment, and what we're saying though is far from a punishment. So look at it. Include that, please, in your explanation, because I think she's correct in how people view things, especially like you've heard it said about the tornadoes or the hurricanes or whatever. These are punishment. This part of the world is being punished for something, and this is how people view things. But clarify that too, if you will.
Okay. George, I will deal with the perfect storm in a few moments. Okay.
Okay.
When you said that, Rainier, what came to my mind is that religion says that it's God's work, so leave it alone. Spirituality says that it's God's work, but he's telling us something. There's a message in it. And the message that's in it is to us, showing us what needs to be dealt with and giving us guidance as to how to get it done. And I want to go back to Haiti for an example. When I was in Haiti, I was carried up to, well, matter of fact, I stayed in most of my time in Gonaïves. And in that town of Gunaive or district, I was told by the elders in that area what happened with the Haitian rebellion against slavery. And what I was told was that the priest went in in the middle of Gonaive. They made a circle with stones, and when they made that circle with stones, the priest went inside and sacrificed a pig, and the priest was following the instruction that he was given. And when that pig was sacrificed, there appeared an ancestor who guided them on how to defeat the French. And more specifically, it was done when Toussaint Louverture was imprisoned, and the guidance of him was given to them through the ancestors. And that, to me, is the Creator showing them how to move forward in order to bring themselves to a place of freedom from bondage. And in that same way, that is where we are. The Creator guiding us through our ancestors so that we are able to receive the necessary guidance to continue this journey of freedom for humanity. Prior to this, we would pray and step back and wait on God to do something, as opposed to us doing something. Our religion has never taught us what to do other than utter some words without any understanding, and most of the time without any results. Now we don't utter the words as we did with religion. We actually have spiritual experience that guides us, and the messages that we are receiving to be uttered from the ancestors are not messages that we get from a book or messages that we are given generationally so that we can maintain the status quo. So the difference to me between the two of what Rainey is talking about, and I do understand very clearly how she, the reason she feels the way she does or had the experiences she's having, and because I've been there, making the difference, trying to differentiate between God doing it and us doing it since we are God. If we are gods in the earth, then the creator of everything that is the guiding force to the gods of this earth. It is no different than if I were to ask a group of people to go to Spain and to organize a certain section of Spain. Then, they were in the process of doing that, and they hit a bump in the road, and I sent them guidance as to how to proceed. That is no different than the Creator's giving us guidance through the ancestors as to how to proceed. However, if I were to send them there and tell them, well, when you hit a bump, just pray, and they pray and nothing changes. So if you take that and overlay it to spirituality, then we will see hopefully a difference in the two processes of bringing change to humanity. Does that help, Rainier?
Yeah, I'm still trying to find the edges, but maybe
Okay.
that's the problem, the edges of that. Yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I'll get there. It's
Okay.
just struggling through it right now.
Okay, well, okay. If you have questions, or if anyone can help me to bring it to a greater clarity through example, however, I'd appreciate that.
Good morning, everyone. Or whoever was about to speak.
Isn't it?
Go ahead.
You've heard it.
We can't hear you, George.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me now?
We can barely hear you.
Hey, y'all go ahead. I'm in the bad spot. You
Now
all
just
go
talk
ahead.
a
I'll
little
just
louder,
continue.
George.
No, talk a little louder. You're clear. You're just not loud enough.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, though. One of the things I just want to add is, in being a creator and in being a God of the earth, what is it that I campaign for? Or what is it that you campaign for? When people say God God is punishing us by way of this election, these are people who don't know what their purpose is. Three things that I campaign for. I campaign for my spiritual minded family, which is you all, the barbershop, beauty parlor, sports family, my truckers family, my community. I campaign for femininity. I campaign for friendship. So if I'm going to change humanity, these are the things that I campaign for that I don't necessarily need anyone to help me in. If I do have help, I am greatly appreciative of the help.
I don't want to hear.
George, hold on a second. Myra, would you mute your phone, please? Go ahead, George.
So just in changing humanity, I know Reverend Richard, he gonna campaign for feminine image. I know Mr. George out of Philly or GC out of Philly, he's campaigning for everything going back to the original. And if anything comes past 0, he gonna research it. He's gonna campaign for that. So we gonna change this earth by campaigning for things that will make humanity better. If better is a word that should be used. That's one of the things, Reverend Richard, and my spiritual minded family, I gathered from this election. Trump campaigned for what he wanted. I do not agree with his tactics. I did not vote for it. Yet, he campaigned for what he wanted. The minute he was removed from that position, he campaigned for what he wanted. So I just look at that word campaign by way of Webster or Oxford, the goal that you want to achieve. So my suggestion to the group is what I do, those are the three things that I campaign for. What is it that you campaign for to make humanity better? Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. I'm honestly, I'm not campaigning. Even though it is activity that leads to a goal, campaigning means that I'm campaigning for something that may end the way I want to or may not. I'm not campaigning because I know that what the end is going to be. There is no losing. So there is no campaign here. It is informing. It is making aware. It is becoming one with the universe because we know what the end is going to be. When we were looking at the candidacy of Kamala through the eyes of politics, we were looking at a campaign, and that campaign on the surface we lost. However, when we are looking at a spiritual truth, which is a desire for manifested harmony with mankind, or with mankind, we know that we did not lose. There is no losing with spirituality. Things did not happen the way we thought they were because we were looking for a physical representation of what our eyes should wanted to see. However, it was the eye that's involved in this. And the eye being involved in this says that we did not lose. We have a spiritual victory in that Kamala brought into our view how it looks and feels to be on one accord. In 170 days, she brought together a coalition of people who were on one accord. Even though their desires may have been varied in terms of abortion, better jobs, etc., even though they were varied, they were still on one accord in that they sought to bring humanity to a better space in this earth. So that's the spiritual victory. And right now, what we are seeing is the infighting of those who have sought to keep humanity in a state of disarrangement. The way that the hierarchy was built in the society is that the wealthy white men dominated the poor white men. The poor white men didn't like the rich white men, but the rich white men convinced them that being white was more important than being black. And being white and poor still made you, put you in a space rather of being superior to people with darker skin. And the darker skinned people were angry with the poor white man and the wealthy white man because both of them represented the same thing. And the light skinned people of African descent who were mixed race looked down upon those who were darker than them, and it goes on and on. And all of this social construct was put in place for the purpose of division. And that is the social construct that Donald Trump used in order to get to where he is. However, the spiritual construct is what Kamala used without even knowing it, used that spiritual construct to bring people together without regard to skin color or ethnicity or socioeconomic standing. It was based upon people's needs rather, as to their needs as to policies that would keep them in a space of balance. So that's different to me anyway than a campaign. Does that make sense, guys? And George, I'm coming to the, thank you. I'm coming to the perfect storm, unless there are questions about what I just said. Or comments. When I made the statement about the perfect storm, what I meant by that is this. The creation of a perfect storm in regards to this society is when you're able to change the mindset and the outlook and of a group of people who have been confused about the direction to take, or a group of people who know that they are being oppressed and they're seeking to experience some sense of freedom. When you bring a group of people who know that they are underemployed to a place where they believe that you can be the one, you can be the catalyst that helps them get to a place of a survivable employment. You bring all these different factions of people together with these different desires and thoughts, and they're on the same page. Now they begin to clash with those who want to keep the status quo, and that status quo is a social construct that create division based on race, ethnicity, based upon gender, based upon socioeconomic standards, status. That's the perfect storm. So how does that work? Now that storm has taken place, that the people who are on the same page are clashing with those who want the status quo. Now that is happening, the ones who want to keep the status quo have different ideals about how to do that. And those different ideals about how to get that done creates friction within their ranks. And the friction that's created within their ranks pit them against each other. And they're like vipers. They began to diminish the power and the control of each other by virtue of trying to push their ideals beyond the ideals of the others. In the case of those who are on the same page, they understand that they have unity without uniformity. And they can disagree without being angry with each other. However, the status quo cannot do that. They do not believe in unity without uniformity. They believe that you have to be uniform, meaning that you have to buy into everything that they say, and you must do things the way that they, excuse me for a moment, please. You must do things according to the way that they say that things should be done. But by doing that, the confusion begins to deepen. The disunity begins to deepen. And the more it deepens, the group who's on the same page, all they have to do is be still and know that I'm God, so to speak. Am I making sense so far?
Yes.
What I'm saying is this. Here we are. All we have to do is be still and know that we are God. Be still and know who you are. And being still, knowing who we are, doesn't mean that we don't do what we are doing, but it does mean that we are not in the streets demonstrating. It does mean that. It means that there is an energy force that functions behind the scene. No one sees that energy force, but they are experiencing the results of that force. Does that make sense? Not just George, but everyone as well. Does that make sense to you guys?
It does.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, James, Brother James, it makes a lot of sense to me. I woke up this morning and I was thinking, stand still and see the salvation. And standing still doesn't mean that we stand still. It means that we stay the course, that we stay focused, that we continue to do as we are guided to do, and without actually directly putting our hands on the people who caused all of this chaos, we can observe them self-destruct.
That's it.
And this is what we're going to see. Meanwhile, we continue to learn and to share. Let me tell you, I know who you are. You are wisdom keepers. And I thank God for you. I thank God for the energy that you share. I'm grateful for your ever expanding wisdom that's growing and that will envelop the universe. So I'm grateful that you exist. I'm grateful that you do what you do. And I'm grateful that you allow yourselves to be open to continue to learn and to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. For those who are on for the first time since Cheryl has been on, I'm not, it's not disrespect. I don't feel it that way when you call me James, because you knew me before I was pastor. So I just wanted to say that so other people understand. Audrey, you have something to say? Okay. Anyway, what I was saying, what I'm trying to say is that we are seeing the storm. It's like we are on the fringes of the storm. We're observing the storm. And as the storm begins to increase its velocity, we are the keepers of order. So that when the self-destruction takes place, there are those who are able to build the nation out of the remnants of a country. The foundational principles of this country must be destroyed in order for a nation to be raised for the benefit of humanity worldwide. As Audrey stated earlier, America's hands are not clean when it came to Haiti. America's hands are not clean worldwide. As a matter of fact, America was one of the primary forces in pushing France to make sure that they forced compensation from Haiti for all the things they had already stolen from Haiti and stolen from Africa. And they did it because they were afraid of the same type of rebellion in this country. And to show you the length that people will go to keep the status quo, and the status quo for them is to make all the money they can off as few people as they can. That to show you that Napoleon was going broke in Haiti. And that's why the Louisiana Purchase took place, to raise capital to continue the war in Haiti. So right now, the political capital is being sought in order to battle Mitch McConnell so that he will not be able to do anything to mitigate the things that Donald Trump wants to do, which in itself creates a storm within a storm. Does that make sense so far, George?
Yes.
I'm done about the storm. Is there questions or comments?
Yeah, well, what I would like to comment on, Pastor, is when you mentioned that Kamala created the perfect storm, I wanted to, do some reading, some meditating on that. And it just stated in terms of the best definition of storm, it says it is a disturbance of the atmosphere marked by wind and usually by rain, snow, hail, sleet, or thunder and lightning, But at the same time, from the biblical definition of storm, it talks about in the Bible, the storm is a symbol of many different things. Non-destructive wind is an apt picture of the presence of God because God is powerful yet unseen. I think Kamala's presence, you know what I mean, was seen with our eyes, but at the same time, in terms of the cosmic great mother, is yet unseen. And so I just wanted to mention those thoughts in terms of what you said yesterday, and I appreciate your comments on that.
Thank you.
I'm done. I apologize for not visually being seen, but yeah, I'm done.
No apology necessary, George. That is a great example of what we were talking about the cosmic mother in existence, and Kamala simply being a manifestation of a portion of that energy force. Ron?
I just had a thought when you mentioned what she accomplished in 170 days, and my mind went to the number 1, the number 7, and the number 8. And everything that has been described today can be summed up that way. And looking at those numbers, 7 speaks of course, something being full, something reaching its maturity and can hold no more. And it spills over into something else. It's full, it's fat. And 8 talks about something starting over, but not from the beginning like you would think, but from the beginning of 7, from the end of 7. And so looking at this, you could look at it as us as a group coming into another place. You can look at it politically, what you just described, and seeing this is the next chapter of what happens. And the number 1 speaks of something that cannot be divided, something that is foundational, something that has strength. And so all of that just came to my mind when you mentioned 170 days. So you mentioned it yesterday, and I just thought it was important, and there's far more to it than what I just said. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Are there any more questions or comments?
Good morning. I have a comment. This is Mary. You know, I thought about that said that politics wasn't the answer, but yet I hoped it was. And that's why I was felt just discombobulated. I was just so out of it. And then because the way it happened, it's like, okay, so the Creator has another way of getting us to where we need to be. And just like the case of George Floyd and everything else, this stuff has to happen in order for us to come to the realization that we are one and that we need each other. The virus kind of helped us with that, and the hurricanes came and people were helping each other, but it's like there's a distance now, but that's not, I don't believe that's real. I just think it's not spiritual. Let me say that. In the natural, it appears that way, but spiritually, I don't think it is. So we have to just continue to stay focused, know who we are, and know that things are better. We just don't see it. Because I thought about if Kamala got elected, she would catch all kind of you-know-what, trying to do what she wants to do for the good of the people. Obama tried it, it didn't work, so we need to stay focused and spiritual. Does that make sense? Because that's where my head is, because I was out of it, y'all, when that happened. And then I realized my hope is not in man, but it's in the spiritual world. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
I just want to add to that, though. That's mainly what we discussed yesterday. Being able to, through meditation, we are able to see it. and it did throw us for a loop. That is really real. But it is all coming into focus now. But it's spiritual, so
Yeah.
I have a question to ask. With the new upcoming presidency and the inauguration in January 20th, is there any new input or thought regarding the planets that are going to be aligning the weekend before? I believe somebody mentioned it was January 18th.
I don't remember the dates. Anyone remember that? I don't even
I
remember
don't remember either.
what that up.
Is it Myra? Do you know if is it the same planets that we spoke of before? Or is it something?
Yeah, I can't remember which female who brought up the dates beforehand, and I had marked it on my calendar. And I guess in my mind, mentally, I was preparing for Kamala. Then this happened, so I'm like, is there any change with this happening? And the date could be wrong. I was just asking.
Okay.
If it probably was Janice, that's what it sounds like, but I'm not sure. And as to the dates, I'm not aware of the significance of it. However, I'm quite sure that someone will be researching that. Right, Ron?
Yeah. If nothing more, we'll look at it and I'll contact Nick and see if he's given any thought to it. It sounds like something up his alley as well.
Those two, Nick and Janice, when it comes to stuff like that, yeah. So,
Good question, Myra. Thank you.
yeah, we'll be back with you on that. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is there anyone else? Any other questions, comments? As Mary stated, and we discussed on yesterday, this thing did throw us for a loop. And I agree with what Pastor said. It has allowed us to refocus on who we are and see the bigger picture here. So is everybody okay now? We talked
Yes.
about that a bit, but yeah, okay. Okay. And if not, we'll discuss it and until we feel comfortable what's going on and who we are in this whole thing. So, but thank you for your questions. Thank you for your energy. And if there are no more questions, then I guess it's time to take a pause and reconvene tomorrow at 6 p.m. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Greatly appreciate it.
Have a
Have a great
meeting week, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you,
everyone.
Pastor.
Everyone.
Everybody have a
thank
good
you.
evening.